Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher born in 1844. He lived during a time of great change in Europe, with new ideas about science, morality, and religion emerging. His work challenged traditional beliefs and encouraged people to think for themselves. Nietzsche is known for many powerful ideas, including God is dead and the concept of the Übermensch, or overman. One of Nietzsche's lesser-known but significant discussions revolves around mercy. He viewed it not as a pure virtue but rather as something that can hide weakness. Understanding this perspective requires looking at his life and the world he lived in. Nietzsche faced personal struggles, including health issues and a sense of isolation from society. These challenges shaped his views on strength and weakness. His writings often criticized conventional morals, arguing that they did not promote true strength. Instead, they often emphasized compassion at the expense of individual power and ambition. During Nietzsche's time, society valued kindness and mercy, especially in the context of religion. He believed that these qualities might come from a place of weakness, a way for the weak to control the strong through guilt and pity. Through his philosophy, Nietzsche urges us to question how we define strength and compassion. In his view, genuine strength does not come from weakness disguised as kindness, it comes from embracing one's will to power and striving for greatness. This sets the stage for understanding why he saw mercy as hidden weakness rather than an admirable trait. Mercy is often defined as compassion or forgiveness shown toward someone whom it is within one's power to punish or harm. In many cultures, mercy is celebrated as a noble and moral quality. People generally view it as a virtue that reflects kindness, understanding, and humanity. When someone acts with mercy, they are seen as strong enough to rise above their anger or urge for revenge, choosing instead to show grace and empathy. In society, mercy is frequently taught and encouraged, especially through religious teachings and ethical discussions. It is often linked to concepts like love and charity, suggesting that to be merciful is to be a good person. Many believe that showing mercy can heal relationships and promote peace. However, this perspective can overlook the complexities involved in acts of mercy. For Nietzsche, the common view of mercy as a virtue raises some critical questions. He argued that while it may appear to be an act of strength, it can mask underlying weakness. When someone shows mercy, they might do so from a place of insecurity or fear, perhaps worried about the consequences of their actions or seeking approval from others. Nietzsche contended that this act can diminish the power of the individual and enable those who take advantage of kindness. As we explore Nietzsche's critique of mercy further, it's essential to consider how this traditional view clashes with his belief in strength and self-assertion. What does it really mean to be strong, and how does mercy fit into this complex picture? Nietzsche's critique of mercy is one of his more provocative ideas. He believed that what society often calls a noble act can be deceptive. To him, the act of showing mercy might appear to come from a position of strength, but it can actually hide a deeper vulnerability. This perspective is tied to Nietzsche's broader views on power and individuality. He argued that genuine strength involves the ability to assert oneself and rise above others, not to compromise or soften one's stance for the sake of compassion. Instead of embracing weakness, Nietzsche encouraged people to embrace their instincts and desires. In his view, mercy might serve as a crutch for those who fear confrontation or reprisal. By choosing to show mercy, individuals may avoid taking responsibility for their actions or face the discomfort of true conflict. Furthermore, Nietzsche saw mercy as a way for the weak to manipulate the strong. By appealing to compassion and pity, those who lack the power or courage to stand up for themselves might try to bring others down to their level through guilt. This dynamic creates a cycle where strength is undermined by acts of kindness that are not truly generous but rather calculated moves in a power play. Through this lens, Nietzsche invites us to question our values and reconsider the nature of compassion. Is mercy truly an admirable trait, or does it risk enabling weakness at the cost of genuine strength? These questions are essential in understanding Nietzsche's philosophy and his views on mercy. Nietzsche's concept of strength goes beyond mere physical power, it encompasses mental and emotional resilience. For him, true strength is about the will to assert oneself and the courage to face life's challenges head-on. He believed that this inner strength is rooted in an individual's capacity for self-overcoming, the ability to rise above one's limitations, fears, and societal expectations. Central to Nietzsche's philosophy is the idea of that will to power, which he described as an innate drive within humans to grow, expand, and assert themselves. This drive is not just about domination over others but also about mastering oneself. Strength, in Nietzsche's view, comes from the pursuit of one's own goals and desires, regardless of external pressures or moral constraints. While society often promotes compassion and mercy, he argued that these qualities can distract individuals from their true potential. By embracing the will to power, individuals can transcend their weaknesses and become who they truly are meant to be. This journey requires confronting discomfort and challenges rather than avoiding them through acts of false kindness or mercy. Nietzsche's view encourages people to accept their instincts and ambitions, seeing them as pathways to genuine strength. Ultimately, Nietzsche challenges us to redefine what it means to be strong. Rather than conforming to societal expectations of compassion, he urges individuals to cultivate their own power through self-discovery and personal growth. This perspective sets the stage for a deeper understanding of mercy and its place within the broader framework of human strength. Nietzsche draws a stark contrast between mercy and displays of power, arguing that the two concepts represent fundamentally different approaches to life and strength. While mercy is often seen as an act of kindness and compassion, Nietzsche views it as an expression of weakness that can undermine true power. Instead of elevating individuals, mercy can create dependency and foster a culture where the strong feel guilty for their advantages. In contrast, displays of power and domination are seen as affirmations of strength and vitality. Nietzsche celebrates the ability to assert oneself, to influence others, and to take control of one's own destiny. For him, true power is about embracing one's instincts and desires unapologetically. Power involves establishing one's will over circumstances, which can also mean rejecting societal norms that promote mercy at the cost of individual ambition. When mercy is exercised, it may come from a desire to appear virtuous or kind. However, Nietzsche argues that it often masks a fear of confrontation or weakness. By choosing mercy over strength, individuals may inadvertently enable those who do not share their values or ambitions. This creates a cycle where the powerful are subdued by guilt and the weak remain dependent on the mercy of others. Ultimately, Nietzsche challenges us to consider how we engage with both concepts in our lives. Instead of embracing acts of mercy that might weaken our resolve, he suggests we cultivate strength through self-assertion and embrace our capacity for power, which he believes leads to authentic growth and fulfillment. To understand Nietzsche's critique of mercy, one must explore his concept of slave morality and master morality. Master morality, according to Nietzsche, is characterized by values such as strength, power, and nobility. It stems from the noble class that creates its own values and celebrates life-affirming qualities. In contrast, slave morality arises from those who are oppressed or weak, those who do not possess the power to assert themselves. Slave morality emphasizes values like humility, compassion, and mercy. It focuses on traits that mitigate conflict and encourage social cohesion among the weaker members of society. However, Nietzsche argues that these values were formed in reaction to the dominant, master morality. This leads to a resentment, or what he calls ressentiment, where the weak vilify the powerful for their perceived flaws while elevating their own weaknesses into virtues. Mercy fits neatly within this framework of slave morality. Rather than being a true show of strength, it represents a denial of power and an acceptance of inferiority. When someone practices mercy, they may use it as a means to gain social approval or avoid confrontation, revealing their own inherent insecurity. In doing so, they empower the weak by validating their claims for pity or support. Nietzsche challenges individuals to rise above this slave mentality and reject mercy as a virtue. He advocates for embracing one's instincts and desires as signifiers of true strength, values that belong to the realm of master morality. By recognizing this distinction, one can strive for personal growth and reclaim their potential without being trapped in the cycle of weakness and dependency perpetuated by concepts like mercy. The implications of showing mercy, according to Nietzsche, can be detrimental for both the giver and the receiver. When an individual extends mercy, they may feel a temporary sense of superiority or moral high ground, but this often comes at a cost. Instead of demonstrating strength, the act of mercy may reveal an inner conflict or insecurity, undermining their own power in the process. By choosing to show mercy, the giver may inadvertently signal their inability to confront challenges directly, thereby weakening their position in the eyes of others. For the receiver, mercy can also have negative consequences. When someone is granted mercy, it may foster a sense of dependency rather than encouraging personal growth or accountability. Instead of pushing them to improve or take responsibility for their actions, mercy can create an environment where they feel justified in their behavior, leading to stagnation. This dependency reinforces a cycle where individuals do not learn from their mistakes or develop inner strength. Nietzsche argues that by reinforcing such dynamics, mercy perpetuates a culture of weakness rather than one of self-assertion and resilience. Both parties become trapped in a relationship that hinders progress and personal development. The giver loses their sense of agency by hiding behind an act that is considered noble, while the receiver fails to rise above their circumstances. In this light, Nietzsche urges a re-evaluation of mercy's role in human relationships. Rather than fostering compassion through acts of mercy, he advocates for a more empowering approach that encourages both individuals to embrace strength and assertiveness for true growth and fulfillment. Throughout literature and history, there are notable examples where acts of mercy have had undesirable outcomes, aligning with Nietzsche's critique. One such example is the story of Victor Frankenstein from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. After his creation, Frankenstein initially shows mercy by abandoning the creature instead of killing it. This act of mercy leads to catastrophic consequences, as the abandoned creature becomes vengeful and wreaks havoc on Frankenstein's life. Instead of fostering growth or redemption, this mercy results in further tragedy. Another historical example can be drawn from the aftermath of World War I, particularly the Treaty of Versailles. The treaty imposed harsh penalties on Germany, but in an act of perceived mercy, the Allies chose not to completely dismantle the German state. However, this led to a sense of bitterness and resentment among Germans, paving the way for extremist movements like Nazism. The mercy extended during these negotiations did not lead to stability but instead fostered instability and conflict. These examples illustrate Nietzsche's point that mercy can often disguise a deeper weakness or fear of confronting true challenges. Rather than nurturing strength or accountability, acts of mercy can create dependency, resentment, and chaos. By failing to recognize the potential negative impacts of their kindness, both characters in literature and nations in history demonstrate the consequences that can arise from misguided compassion. Nietzsche encourages us to consider these dynamics critically, prompting a re-evaluation of how we engage with concepts like mercy in our own lives. Nietzsche's views on mercy and strength have sparked a range of reactions, both in support and against his philosophy. Critics often argue that Nietzsche's rejection of mercy overlooks the fundamental aspects of human compassion that are essential for social harmony. They contend that showing mercy fosters empathy and understanding, qualities that are vital for building strong communities. From this perspective, embracing mercy is seen as a strategy for nurturing relationships and encouraging collective well-being, rather than a sign of weakness. Additionally, some suggest that Nietzsche's emphasis on individual strength might promote selfishness or a lack of solidarity with those who are vulnerable. They argue that a compassionate society requires individuals to balance their own desires with the needs of others, creating an environment where kindness can flourish alongside strength. On the other hand, defenders of Nietzsche's philosophy argue that true strength involves not just the assertion of power but also discernment in how one exercises it. They believe his critique highlights important truths about human nature and challenges complacency in moral thinking. By rejecting unconditional mercy, they argue individuals can cultivate resilience and self-empowerment, qualities needed to achieve personal growth and face life's adversities head-on. Supporters further assert that Nietzsche's ideas encourage people to face uncomfortable realities instead of hiding behind false notions of virtue. This perspective advocates for self-discovery through power dynamics, suggesting that acknowledging strength, as well as our weaknesses, can lead to genuine connections and a more dynamic society. Through this lens, Nietzsche's thoughts provoke valuable discussions about the complexities of morality and human relationships. In conclusion, Nietzsche's exploration of mercy and strength challenges us to reconsider our values regarding compassion and personal power. His argument that mercy can often be a disguise for weakness prompts critical reflection on the true nature of strength. Rather than viewing mercy as an inherent virtue, Nietzsche encourages us to recognize how it may stem from insecurity and can sometimes foster dependency among individuals. Throughout his philosophy, he emphasizes the importance of self-assertion, resilience, and the will to power as essential elements for genuine growth. By promoting the ideas of master morality, where strength and power are celebrated, Nietzsche invites us to embrace our instincts and desires as pathways to true fulfillment. This perspective raises questions about how we define our moral framework and the implications of our actions on both ourselves and others. The examples from literature and history serve as potent reminders of the potential consequences that can arise from misguided acts of mercy. They highlight that compassion must be carefully balanced with the recognition of strength and accountability. As we navigate our relationships and societal expectations, Nietzsche's insights challenge us to be courageous in facing uncomfortable truths about human nature. Ultimately, his philosophy urges a shift away from conventional views that prioritize mercy above all else, advocating for a more dynamic approach that embraces both compassion and strength. This balance is crucial for fostering not only personal growth but also healthier interactions within society as a whole. In confronting these complexities, we can cultivate a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be strong in our lives.